Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I am Amy Trinidad with Colorado Springs Utilities. We're excited to share an important announcement that reflects our commitment to reliable and affordable power in Colorado Springs. State legislators have joined us today to discuss a bill they will introduce this state legislative session. Today's speakers are Travis Deal, CEO of Colorado Springs Utilities. Joining us online is Senator Mark Snyder of Manitou Springs, House Minority Leader Jarvis Caldwell of Colorado Springs, Representative Amy Pascal of Colorado Springs, and Jonna Reeder Claymeyer, President and CEO of the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC. We appreciate the legislators, media, and the community members who've taken the time to be here with us today. Your role in sharing accurate information is vital, and we look forward to answering your questions and providing clarity on today's topics after presenters have concluded their remarks. Our first speaker is CEO Travis Deal.
As a community-owned utility, we understand the rising electric prices add to the economic pressures facing family small business in the Pikes Peak region. Our commitment is clear. Plan for a sustainable future while keeping rates affordable and reliability strong. We've made significant progress towards our sustainable energy plan, like retiring Martin Drake Power Plant, completing the 175 megawatt Pike Solar Array, and adding a 100 megawatt energy storage project. These milestones reflect our dedication to clean energy. However, achieving Colorado's deadline of 80% greenhouse gas reductions by 2030 has become increasingly challenging without adjustments. We risk reliability and affordability for homes, businesses, hospitals, and military installations. We remain committed to sustainability, but we need a measured approach. That's why today, along members of our state delegation, we're announcing bipartisan legislation to help utilities meet Colorado's Clean Energy Plan goals responsibly. This bill will allow Colorado Springs Utilities to file a new clean energy plan by 2026, giving us more time to secure reliable and affordable replacement power for the coal-powered unit at Nixon Power Plant, currently mandated to retire in 2029. This legislation is the result of months of collaboration with local, state, and federal leaders to protect electric reliability rate stability for our customers. I want to thank the bill's sponsors, Senator Mark Snyder, Senator Minority Leader Cleve Simpson, Representative Amy Pascal, and House Minority Leader Jarvis Caldwell for their leadership, and now I will turn it over to Senator Mark Snyder for his remarks.
Well, thank you, Travis, and thank you, everybody, for being here. As a 32-year resident of El Paso County and customer of Colorado Springs Utilities, I want to assure you that this bill is necessary. It is not just some back end run attempt to get out from under the clean energy plan. In fact, Colorado Springs has been Utilities has been a leader in fulfilling our state's clean energy roadmap. So our community and CSU are committed to protecting the environment and accelerating the transition to cleaner, renewable energy. But at the same time, many families are struggling with the high cost of living, and we must ensure that our climate goals are met in a way that is both practical and equitable. Until we have the local infrastructure in place, such as expanded electrical transmission, to reliably deliver more renewable power, we cannot possibly and responsibly achieve the next major round of emission reductions without creating an unacceptable financial burden on ratepayers. I'm particularly concerned on energy affordability for working families, seniors, and those on fixed incomes. This legislation provides our community with the time needed to build the infrastructure and develop an emission reduction pathway that is clean, reliable, and affordable, so we can move forward without leaving anyone behind. Thank you again for your time. And with that, I would like to introduce House Minority Leader Jarvis Caldwell.
Thank you, Senator Snyder. Good morning and good afternoon, and thank you for being here. Everyone in this room wants the same thing. We want a clean and sustainable future for our kids and grandkids. We want responsible stewardship for our environment. We want Colorado to be a place where families can thrive. But what we're seeing right now is a growing gap between intention and reality. Over the last several years, the legislature has set aggressive energy mandates without fully grappling with those mandates mean for the people who are expected to pay the bill. Those policies are now colliding with reality, and the Colorado families are starting to feel the consequences. Under current law, families and small businesses are facing significant increases in their utility bills. For many households, energy costs are not an abstract policy debate. They are a monthly decision between paying the power bill or cutting back somewhere else. For seniors on fixed incomes, for working parents, for rural communities, these increases are not sustainable. Affordability matters, reliability matters, and ignoring either one puts real people at risk. We're being told that higher costs are simply part of the transition. But when that transition is being rushed, when timelines are unrealistic, and when reliability is treated as an afterthought, the result is higher prices and a more fragile system. That is not responsible governance. A cleaner energy future only works if people can afford it and if the lights stay on. Colorado Springs and communities across our state are already warning about what happens when policy moves faster than infrastructure, technology, or affordability allows. Ratepayers are being asked to shoulder costs they did not create and cannot absorb. Utilities are being boxed into timelines that leave little room for flexibility or common sense. That is why we are calling for a more realistic approach. Protecting the environment and protecting families should not be mutually exclusive. We can pursue cleaner energy while also allowing reasonable timelines that safeguard affordability and ensure reliability. That means giving communities and utilities the time they need to transition responsibly. It means listening to ratepayers, not just regulators. And it means acknowledging that energy policy must work in the real world, not just on paper. If we truly care about the future, then we must care about the families living in the present. Affordability is not optional, and reliability is not negotiable. Thank you very much, and I'd like to turn it over to Representative Amy Pascal.
Thank you, Minority Leader Caldwell, and thank you everyone for joining us today. As I think we're all aware, utility costs are eating away at the budgets of hardworking families. CSU has more customers now on payment assistance programs than ever before. We need to take action now to prevent further price hikes in our community. If we don't, our neighbors could experience even higher rate hikes than the 6.5% increase per year over the next 5 years, or actually we're already a year into it, that was already approved by the Colorado Springs Utilities Board. As a parent, ensuring a healthy environment and clean air for my children and for my grandchildren is deeply personal to me. I've been an environmentalist my entire life, and I try to live my values. I recycle, I drive an electric vehicle, and I have solar panels on my roof. And as someone who has asthma and a parent of a child who has asthma, for us, the fact that the Colorado Springs area is hovering near the edge of EPA non-attainment for ozone isn't just an abstract policy discussion. It directly affects our health and our quality of life. So some will ask me, because of all of this, why are you joining on this bill? I'm joining on this bill because it aims to strike the delicate balance between affordability, reliability, and clean energy in Colorado Springs. Our legislation would allow local utility providers like CSU to modify but not abandon their clean energy plans to meet the growing demand and prevent significant hikes. As you heard earlier from Travis Deal, Colorado Springs in this area has worked very hard to work towards our environmental goals. We all know the Drake plant was closed, and it was closed early, and we moved towards solar and wind. So it's not like there's no commitment to getting us to clean energy. We all want that, but we have to do it in a way where we can afford to pay for our rates and where we make sure that when we flip the switch, our electricity goes on. Together, I believe that we can find the right balance for our community. Next up is Jonna Reeder Claymeyer, who is the president and CEO of the Colorado Springs Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC. Sorry about that.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Representative, for the introduction. As she said, I'm Jonna Reeder Claymeyer, and I have the pleasure of working with the Colorado Springs Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Corporation. Now, you may wonder why I'm part of this panel today, and I will just say that the Chamber and EDC is that first point of contact for any company looking to locate to the region or looking to expand within our region. So we care what happens with business. And from a business perspective, this legislation is about certainty, it's about competitiveness, and it is about continuity. You know, electric reliability and affordability are not just some abstract policy goals. They're fundamental to whether a business can invest, operate, hire, and grow in Colorado Springs. When energy costs spike or reliability is threatened, those impacts show up immediately in operating budgets, in workforce decisions, and in long-term planning for any business. Through the Sustainable Energy Plan, Colorado Springs Utilities has done excellent work towards a cleaner energy future and working towards Colorado's statutory deadline of 80% greenhouse gas reductions by 2030. But these current timelines do not properly account for transmission constraints, market conditions, and the scale of replacement power required for such a big move in our state. Moving too fast without reliable alternatives to put in place, it affects both our economy and our community. It puts them both at risk. Now, I'm not a utility expert by any means. I'm a longtime economic developer, but I do know that the wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't always shine. And for businesses, even a momentary outage in their production, their operations, can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that translates to affecting their employees. This proposed legislation recognizes one simple truth. Economic growth and sustainability have to work in concert, not in conflict. Businesses need confidence that the path to cleaner energy will also preserve reliability and affordability. That's the only way they can invest in our future as a community, and they're the ones that create jobs. This legislation, it provides much needed time and flexibility to meet these goals. Time to secure replacement power that is reliable, and flexibility to pursue cleaner energy in a way that does not dramatically increase costs for business, which also affects employees and our families. Thank you for letting me join you today. This is so important to our community. It's important to our business future. I'll now turn it over to our facilitator, Amy, to handle questions.
Thank you. We'll now open it up to questions from our media partners online. Please include your name and media outlet and indicate who your question is directed to.
Good afternoon. My name is Danielle Nieves with Colorado Springs Utilities. We're giving folks a moment to enter their questions as we don't have any currently in the queue.
If you are entering questions in the Q&A, please again state your name and your media outlet.
Thank you for your patience. We're just giving folks one more moment. Question from Ed Sealover. Will this bill affect only CSU or other utilities as well? This is Ed Sealover with the sum and substance.
Is that directed to anyone?
It is not currently directed at anyone. Perhaps Travis Steele might be able to answer.
Yeah, thank you for your question on that. So this bill is really going to be specifically around public power, which will be your municipalities and your cooperatives. This doesn't really hit the investor-owned utilities in the state, just those public power agencies.
Question from Brennan Kaufman with the Gazette. Perhaps for legislators, can you clarify what specifically is in the text of the legislation?
Maybe Senator Mark Snyder?
Well, thank you, and thank you for the question. You know, we're really trying to hit that balance between meeting our climate goals, part of the state plan, and recognizing some of the difficulties. I think you have to realize, too, that we are talking about a municipal utility, a nonprofit here, not an investor-owned utility, not a multi-state organization that has all the resources and they can draw upon to meet a certain state's plan when you have other state ratepayers that can help along the way. What this bill would be doing would be saying that the Nixon plant, the last coal-fired plant that we have, will be allowed a little more leeway to go past 2029. Given that we're filing a new integrated resource plan and that we've got a lot of other exciting things coming online, joining a regional transmission organization, Colorado Springs Utilities will have a lot more flexibility to meet our climate goals just a few more years out from the 2029 deadline that we have now. So that really is the gist of it. But I think in the end, it will prove not only beneficial for our climate plans, but also for our ratepayers, because we'll be able to do it in a sustainable, cost-effective way.
Thank you. This next question is from Brianna Heaney with KRCC CPR News. The question could also be for Senator Snyder. What are this legislation's chances of making it to the finish line, and what are some of the headwinds it faces?
Well, thank you for that most excellent question. That is something that I think about at night before I go to sleep. I think we have a good shot here. I really do. As you all know, it's a different situation. It's Excel and their Comanche plant got a 1-year extension because they were able to show that they were really going to face reliability issues, maybe even brownouts, blackouts, a shortage of power. I think it's going to take something along those lines. We have to really make our case to the legislature. I've been working with all the environmental groups. In fact, we're releasing the final draft of the bill as we speak to all of those groups now. I think it's going to be a lot of stakeholding, a lot of meetings, a lot of going over the fine point details. But in the end, I think we can pull together everybody because the goal here is to make that transition happen. And with this kind of relief, on a small scale, frankly, when it comes to the total power structure of the state of Colorado, we'll be able to demonstrate that this will get us further along those goals than the current IRC that was filed back in 2022. So there is a lot of work to be done, a lot of stakeholding, a lot of really explaining. We're just getting started here today, but I give us a better than even shot of getting this bill through and getting the relief that our ratepayers and our utility company needs.
And this is House Minority Leader Caldwell. I'd just like to hop in here real quick. And I agree with everything Senator Snyder said. But also, I think having bipartisan legislation always sends a strong signal. I can say that Rep. Amy Pascal and myself, we've met with the Democrat majority leadership, the speaker and the majority leader. Now, we didn't get any commitments necessarily from them, but they heard our concerns and they heard our reasoning, and they were receptive to it. And I know, credit to Travis and his team with Springs Utilities, this is not something that the governor is unaware of. There has been discussions with him just over the course of many months or years, frankly. But so this is something, it's bipartisan. We've reached across the aisle on both sides and let them know that this is a real issue that we're facing here in Colorado Springs, and we would not be asking for it if it was not needed. And so I think the legislature is going to be very receptive to that and understand. And, the important thing is having all these stakeholders involved and saying, like, look, with the chamber and EDC, saying this, again, we're asking for this because it is needed. And so I think that sends a strong message, but I hope that helps them. Thank you.
Next question is for Colorado Springs Utilities, Travis Deal. The question is from Brianna Heaney with KRCC CPR News. Will the utility consider putting future agreements with large load users like data centers on hold until the utility can get closer to the current law's clean energy goal?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have basically a new process for large load customers. So when they really get triggered to the 5 to 10 megawatts, it gives us the ability to take a look at an interconnect agreement utilizing our resources, other resources. So it allows us to take a look at these industries as they come into town to see how and if we can serve them currently or in the future. So we would never want to close the door on any opportunity there. But I think that's something that this legislation has to take a look at, is for us to continue to be able to support growth in our communities, have jobs, and look at those revenue streams come in. All things have to be taken a look at. Large load, especially, data centers are challenging in the fact that they do use a lot of consumptive use loads of electric and water, and they don't really have a lot of jobs. So we look at those agreements a little bit differently than we say another large level manufacturer. So we try not to get into necessarily what the load is as much as what the community benefit is and how we can best serve them.
Travis. This is from Brennan Kaufman from the Gazette. Last Friday, the EPA announced it would reject Colorado's regional haze plan, in large part because of the state not allowing for a timeline change with the closure of Ray Nixon. Do you feel like it makes sense for the entire state plan to be rejected because of this single power plant?
Yeah, the state, of course, will have to work with the EPA on that. So that's sort of out of our purview there. But at this point, I think everybody understands, even the EPA, that we do have a situation that needs addressed, within our footprint of Colorado Springs. And there is other communities going to be impacted from this. So I think it's good that it's forcing a conversation, between the state, the federal, and us local utility providers to make sure anything that we do does have a beneficial outcome to all parties involved. So I definitely support where the EPA landed with that. I think it will drive, a communication and conversation between us and our state to make sure we're doing the right path forward with the future Ray Nixon Power Plant.
And Brianna Heaney with CPR KRCC also asks, if this doesn't pass, what is Colorado Springs Utilities contingency plan?
We definitely have some. I do feel as well as, what Senator Snyder said and Representative Caldwell said. I do think this here is bipartisan. I do think it's there. At this point, we cannot meet the current deadlines. We will have some other things we'll have to take a look at, but right now the path forward is to try to work through a bipartisanship approach to this, to try to find a right transition plan for the state and for our customers. If it does not pass for some reason, we'll definitely take a look at it. But right now, I feel confident that anybody that's looking at the best interests of our current customers, businesses, our military communities, and future growth will take a look at this and say this is needed.
Thank you. This next question from the Denver Post may be for one of the bill sponsors. The question is, if the bill is approved, does the PUC have to approve the changes?
Well, thank you for that question. It's a really good question, actually. We generally, municipal utilities like CSU are not under the purview of the PUC. They are in some small instances like extraterritorial service rates and things like that. So my initial feeling would be, no, it would not need that PUC approval, but I could be wrong on that. It's something I'd have to dig down on and get a specific answer to, but generally we're not subject to the PUC.
Yeah, and just to sort of add on the process, this would not fall under the PUC jurisdiction, just like, Senator Snyder said.
A couple of questions for you.
Okay.
This is from Brianna with CPR KRCC. A few solar customers I've talked to feel like they are underutilized by the utility. Is there a way the utility could lean on those customers more or grow their solar base by investing in batteries or something else?
Yeah, as rooftop solar had advanced, throughout, it's definitely really good. And really what those customers do is really help for behind the meter. So they help sort of leverage their investment to maintain, cost stability, through their own uses. Batteries, if they can continue to produce, definitely, battery storage can help with that, where they can actually store that energy and sell it back to the grid at a different time frame during the day. So those benefits definitely help those residential solar customers that has made those investments for sure. Where we run into as a utility company, all of our load has to be planned for. And I think that's where everybody starts to sort of lose with that. So whenever you get into load, and basically it's only renewable based and it's a customer based load, we can't always depend on that load because for some reason, if their system ain't maintained, so we can't really count that towards a lot of our NERC requirements. So it is a benefit, to the customers and a benefit to Colorado Springs utilities, but it's something that we can't really put in our long-term plan because customer behavior and customer infrastructure is on the hook there. So unless it is a large scale project that has some different criteria, is really the only way we can count that into our electric planning needs.
We have another question, Travis, for Colorado Springs Utilities from Michael Booth with the Colorado Sun. Other utilities, large and small, are complying with the schedule. For example, Excel, Holy Cross. Why can't CSU?
Yeah, I think every utility is different, just like everybody's different. So your footprint's different. So Xcel Energy, and I think, Senator Snyder touched on this, is a multi-state utility that has large-scale transmissions and large-scale projects in and outside the state. Colorado Springs Utilities, our infrastructure was really built to serve this city, El Paso County, and some of the Tide area. So as these things have changed, as renewables start to come online and play, large-scale transmission projects is going to be needed. You have to have the infrastructure before the needs there. The infrastructure right now, we're aggressively taking a look at infrastructure that is connected from us into Wyoming. Right now, Wyoming has the best wind. That is the most wind, and it is the most that benefits us when it gets into how that overlays with our renewables. But we have to have infrastructure. So you have to be able to build this transmission infrastructure to be able to transition. Xcel Energy, for example, is different. Holy Cross is a distribution company only. They don't have their own assets, but they are being firmed up by fossil fuel. So a lot of people think that 100% renewables, that isn't always there. What happens is, they're being tagged. So fossil fuels, when it gets into gas generation, is still being utilized in the state for firming power. So, but they are a distribution only company. Ours is a little different, but both of those are two different extremes. Holy Cross being basically a distribution company only in a small community. And then you have Xcel Energy, which is a very large investor-owned utility. Those two things, but we're all very different. Our assets were built differently for different reasons. We're committed to transition. I want to just keep saying that. We just need to do it in the right way that manages cost and reliability as we transition. And I think at that point, we may be farther along than anybody else once this is done.
Thank you. We have another question also from Michael Booth with the Colorado Sun, perhaps for Travis and legislators. A delay would not be positive for all parties involved if you include parties that want to avoid more greenhouse gases, sulfur dioxide, NOx, and PM right now. What is your argument to those groups?
Yeah, the good thing is we do have a lot of green energy in our portfolio. So we've had basically a green energy plan for those customers that want sustainability built into their homes and businesses. We've had those plans, and we are still coming along with a lot of our renewable projects. So I think right now a balanced portfolio meets everybody's needs. So for those customers who are willing to pay more for those, we have those options. But for those customers who are barely getting by, which is a large part of our El Paso County, we have to have options for them as well. And that's what we're working on. And we got to make sure we're staying competitive, as a community to continue to bring in jobs. Those are also a must. So it isn't just for one segment. We have to have something for everybody.
Travis, I have one more question. Sorry, did it?
Does anybody else?
Brendan Kaufman from the Gazette. If this bill is approved, does Colorado Springs Utilities have a proposal in mind for what the new timeline would be for Ray Nixon?
So right now we're involved in our electric integrated resource plan. So right now we actually are going to be bringing that forward this year, and that's where we look at all the resources. But a lot of it is going to be cost driven at this point. So we didn't really touch on it, but really what started all this about 2 years ago, we went out for 1,700 megawatts RFP for renewable resources. And we've seen those prices skyrocket, 30, 50% in a lot of areas. That is where we had to take a look that we have to find a better plan forward. So our new plan will definitely be taking a look at reliability and cost and also what our community needs for growth. Those things will all come into play. That will be presented, probably the end of first quarter here, with our utilities board, with our integrated resource plan, and that will start formulating what our next steps are. But some of that will also pick the technology, but then we also have to look at the cost. And that is where I think everybody's looking at is when this legislation was looked at, it had good intent. I'll just say that. The intent was there to try to find a path forward, for a cleaner future. The problem is you also have to look at costs and impacts. So we're committed to finding a path forward, but at a cost pace that does not price us out or take away our competitive advantage.
Thank you. We have one more question coming in, so I'm just giving a moment for that person to complete their question. This question is from Alan Best with Big Pivots. Why is Springs Utilities alone among Colorado Springs Utilities in wanting this extension? United Power has very rapid growth and demand, but has not said it cannot meet these goals.
Yeah, United Power, and I can't speak for all utilities, but United Power also is not a vertically integrated asset, just like Holy Cross was earlier. A lot of these companies are purchasing their power from Xcel Energy and Tri-State. We actually put RFPs out for acquiring power as well. So I cannot speak for other utilities, and just like I will not today, but I just go back to where I'm saying is every utility is different. So having a blanket approach to any sort of legislation will always have winners and losers and those that need help in between. Well, we're definitely on the in between there. We definitely need some assistance to get us to that next level. But just like, United Power, they're looking at what's best for their community based off of their infrastructure and what their needs are. We have to look at what's best for ours.
And one more question from Alan Best. Pardon.
Yes.
Thank you, Travis. I would just point out, just like every utility is different, every community is different. We stand in El Paso County, that is the largest county in the state of Colorado and in the second largest city in the state of Colorado. In 2025, our region, along with the Colorado Office of Economic Development and International Trade, out of the 20 projects for economic development that were announced in the state, 8 of those were in the city of Colorado Springs. This is a fast-growing area in the state of Colorado, and unfortunately not all areas are that way, but we're a tax contributor to this state. We're adding to the bottom line to take care of the many things that are important to the state of Colorado, but that can only happen when we have a strong tax base, and we do that by adding jobs and having a strong business climate. So I would just point out that we're not comparing apples to apples when we talk about different utilities or when we talk about different communities. We're a donor part of the state, and we want to continue to contribute in that way. But we can only do that if we have competitive prices as a utility. Companies, when they are thinking about locating in a region, the first thing they want to know is, do you have a site or a building? The second thing is, can I get the utilities? What's the cost and what's the reliability? And we're competing with states such as Texas and Arizona, Iowa, and Utah. While Colorado Springs utilities are competitive today, we can only keep that advantage if we do this in a prudent model of both having sustainability, affordability, and reliability.
Thank you. Just inspired a thought here, and something that happened during the interim a few months ago is I attended a site selector event with the Metro Denver Chamber of Commerce, and this is exactly what they spoke to when they travel around the country and they look at different states and communities when they're thinking about where to expand at. Energy is in their top 2 or 3. I would say maybe sometimes number 1 on whether they're looking at expanding into a state. And what I heard over and over again from about 10 different site selectors is we're not sure. Like, we love Colorado. They have a great workforce, very educated workforce. Who doesn't want to live here? It's a beautiful state. But because of the policies that we've put in place here in Colorado over the last decade, they're not sure if they're comfortable coming here because they're not sure if they're going to have that affordability and reliability with energy going forward. And so that is something that we all have to keep in mind. And it is something that is, if it hasn't already held us back, it is certainly going to hold us back if we don't get serious about this.
We have one last question.
One last question.
Also from Alan Best with Big Pivots. I believe this is a question for Travis. If we had the existing transmission required, would we still have the same problem with these targets?
Danielle, can you repeat that one more time? I was walking up.
Yes. Alan from Big Pivots asks, if we had the existing transmission required, would we still have the same problem with these targets?
We would have a lesser problem with the targets. They're still going to be hard when it gets in some of your base load generation, some of the needs are. But when we did the RFP that I spoke on earlier, pretty much most of the lower cost wind that we could have really moved forward to is really in that Wyoming area. And if we had transmission, we definitely could have put that in the mix. I don't know if there was enough response at the time to fully meet our needs, but it for sure would have helped a lot. And that's why transmission is an aggressive goal of mine right now to get built, to get us into these areas where we can look at larger scale projects to keep costs down. We look at different types of generation that works with our usage here and curb appeal, our usage and our load curve. All of these things make a huge difference for us. So transmission may not have alleviated everything day one, but it would give us a lot more options. Senator Snyder also spoke to it earlier. We haven't really talked, but we're going into market. So the market is also going to be a big tool for us where we can actually take a look at renewable resources in and outside Colorado. Once again, we got to have the interconnection transmission for that. So I think you're going to see a lot of transmission focus from us and others throughout, and that will make a huge difference on our ability to transition in a smart way. But we are still going to have a balanced approach here and having some gas generation to help support our reliability needs of our customers.
Thank you. We have one last question, and I believe this is this is Michael Booth with Colorado Sun. That could be for Jonna Reeder Claymire, I believe. Has any company or developer actually said to you, we can't do this because your utility is not reliable?
Thank you for the question. The question that we would get from a company is they always want to know, can you meet what their base load is, what they need to operate? And then they want to look at their long-term plans on if you can meet their 5-year operations, their 10-year operations. And remember, we're a utility that has 4 utility services under it. Absolutely, that's a question. The first thing they will ask is, tell us how long are your momentary outages, and then how long are your sustained outages? Colorado Springs Utilities, and Travis, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard numbers that we're 99% plus on our reliability, which is outstanding because, as I mentioned in my comments earlier, even a momentary outage for a manufacturer that is operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we have quite a few manufacturers in our region, a momentary outage can cost them millions. It can also affect their equipment, which can knock out equipment if something were to happen such as that. So we're fortunate to have those kinds of reliability numbers, and it is definitely part of an equation when a company is looking at a location. In fact, we've seen states, we've seen regions across the country that have had issues with brownouts or blackouts. I can promise you the companies that affects them, and that would factor into a decision. Thank you for the question.
That does conclude our questions for today. Would anyone like to make any final comments before we wrap up?
Any final comments?
Yes. If nobody's
Sort of just to close with, I mean, I can't help but think, with our elected officials who are here today, that's really helping support this. And this wasn't easy. They took hours upon hours to understand and ask a lot of questions to make sure they had a really good clarity of what we're asking for here, and to make sure that, we had an approach that was going to be supported. So I want to thank our elected officials. They've done a phenomenal job. And I just want to make sure to reiterate, be clear here. We are still committed to moving forward. All we're looking for is to make sure we stay competitive as a community. We ensure that our customers are not seeing undue just cost on their bills that isn't needed, and that we still have an area where people want to come build and develop that makes our community sustainable. So that'd be the last few comments I'd have. I'd open up to the rest of the panels, or Senator Snyder, you're online. I know you're sort of leading the charge. If you have anything, sir.
Thank you, Travis. Yeah, and I just want to say, as I said at the beginning, I'm a 32-year customer, resident of Manitou Springs. In another lifetime, I was actually mayor of Manitou Springs. But without CSU, we could not have made the advances in Manitou Springs that we have, whether it's the hydroelectric plant up Ruxton Avenue that has gone back online for some 20 years now. We were the first home rule municipality in the state of Colorado to go 100% renewables. That would not have been possible without CSU's help and the reliability they provide. We have put micro hydro into our raw water line to power our number one energy user, which is our treatment plant. But again, none of this would be possible if we didn't have the backing and the reliability that comes from Colorado Springs Utilities. So I believe that this bill that we're proposing here today goes right in line with my experience in Manitou Springs. And I'm really looking forward to moving this community and Colorado Springs Utilities forward in a responsible, reliable, sustainable way. Thank you.
Hi, Representative Amy Pascal. I just wanted to remind folks that, the groups of people out there I heard mentioned, one of the questions was the people that care about NOx and all other different kinds of chemicals that come out of coal plants or other types of energy sources. The group of people that care about those chemicals, and the group of people that care about affordability, and the group of people that care about reliability are not three different groups. These are something that we all care about and that we all need to balance. And I think it's really important to have aspirational goals, but it's also really important to recognize what the facts are on the ground, the laws of physics, and what we can manage to accomplish. And what we really need to do is come together and figure out a plan that gets us where we need to be for all of our needs. And I am proud to live in a place where we have a 99.9, whatever it was, reliability. And, I know my friends in the legislature that were out of power for 5 days not that long ago. We're not seeing that. And we expect here in Colorado Springs that we have that kind of reliability. And we owe it to our residents, not just here, but in all of Colorado, that they can afford their energy, that they can afford to live, and that, they can afford to keep their lights on, in addition to making sure that we have a clean environment. So I think it's a project where we all need to realize we need to work together to solve this in a real way. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Pascal. And just to kind of reiterate the point that Travis made earlier, it is not that Colorado Springs Utilities or any other utility companies have just done nothing up until now, and now they're asking for relief. We have been working towards these goals honestly and been honest brokers, but we just are at a point where we could use the help from the legislature. And to Rep. Pascal's point is we all care about a clean environment. my members in the House minority side, we represent 2 million Coloradans all across the state, and we all breathe the same air. And a lot of our constituents are farmers and ranchers and sportsmen and conservationists. We all care about the environment. I have children. I want my children to have a clean environment, and I'm not against a renewable future, but we do have an all of the above approach already. And all we're asking for is we're in that in between where we just need a little bit more time for the transition, but we are still working towards those goals. And so I think the legislature needs to take that into account for sure.
Thank you to our speakers today. That concludes our event. And thank you all of those who have joined us online. More information about this topic and a recording of the meeting will be available on our website at csu.org.